TikTok's TRADWIVES are under attack because the internet thinks they're a plague to society.
And I've been sitting in my car crying ever since because I never have enough money. And why do I never have enough money? Because when I was a 19-year-old girl,
I used to be a trad wife and now I'm a single mom.
Something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming, it's just money.
I'm here to tell you why that whole trad wife trend is absolute bullcrap. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who has been married for about 15 years now. Before she got married, she got a master's degree in education and a law degree. She met her husband in law school. He wanted a traditional wife. She did not take the bar, and instead they got married. He took the bar, he passed the bar, he became a lawyer, and she became a full-time housewife and later a mom. Times 5. They have 5 children. Okay, fast forward 15 years, where he has been cheating on her for years. She finally caught him red-handed. She has enough confidence and determination to say, I want a divorce, I'm done. He's walking away with a $300,000+ job that he got, by the way, from one of her mom friends in a mom group. Let's just put that aside. She has nothing. She has 2 advanced degrees, 0 experience. So are they even worthwhile? Are they even worth anything? She has nothing to show for it. And in the last 15 years, what has changed in law and in education? Probably quite a bit. So she is stuck at this crossroads of feeling like she has nothing. And before you say alimony, he is trying to screw her out of everything he possibly can. She cannot keep the house, even though she has primary custody of the children. She can't afford it. She has no job. Absolutely no job right now. And even if she did, there are 5 children. So between drop-offs and pickups at 4 different schools, she has about 3 hours in the daytime when she is not tending to children. So to any woman who is considering that the trad wife lifestyle might be it for you, I encourage you to think about this story. Remember it. And just remember that you as a woman need to have something for yourself. If anything, just for yourself, because you absolutely never know what can happen in life, whether it be divorce, whether it be cheating, whether it be the passing away of your spouse. You have to take care of yourself and put yourself first. You can still love and support your husband and be an incredible wife who takes care of your man, but take care of yourself first.
Let's talk about the trad wife trend that I've been seeing all over TikTok. So believe it or not, I actually grew up in the Mormon church. So if you know anything about the Mormon church, you know that the gender roles are extremely traditional. And most of the time you're going to see the woman is a stay-at-home mom. She's raising the kids. She's making home-cooked meals, doing all of the housework. And while that is absolutely amazing, and I'm all for, women staying at home, taking care of the kids, because that is a job in itself, I have seen that turn really badly. So there was this couple, when I was a kid, I was growing up, they were in the church, and they were like the perfect couple. The husband was very well off. He was extremely rich. The wife was a stay-at-home mom. They went on to have 7 kids, which is a very Mormon thing to do, to have a lot of children. And she never worked. She stayed at home, took care of the kids, took care of the house. They had a huge, amazing house, mansion. And they just literally seemed like this perfect couple. And I grew up really poor, and we would go to their house all the time, and I'd be like, wow, I wish that, I had this life. They had a pool, they had this huge yard with a trampoline, they had a whole hillside. House was just spectacular. And I always wanted their life growing up as a kid. Naturally you want things that you don't have. But as I got older, when the kids were teenagers, so she had 7, the oldest ones were around my age. And when they hit their teenage years, there started to be talk of them getting a divorce. And they actually did. They got a divorce. He was seeing someone else while they were married, and he eventually divorced his wife, who had diligently raised their kids and had never worked, so she had no work experience, and he left her for another woman. And so the wife moved out of the house and she had to downsize. Now she was living in like a really small house, and he went on to marry this woman, had a child with her, and she ended up living in this mansion with him. So her life was, you know, now this extravagant life. And the husband, he went on to continue his normal life. Like nothing really changed for him, except that now he had a new wife. He still lived in the same house. He still made the amount of money that he was making. But now the ex-wife had to change her whole life. She had to get a job. She had never worked anywhere. And she would tell my mom how hard it was to find a job. And she was really going through it, while the husband just moved on so easily to this other wife that he married. The 7 kids that they had, their lives also drastically changed, because now you could see how it was affecting them. The 2 older ones started doing things they shouldn't have been doing. They all kind of drifted away from the church, and you could tell that the divorce really affected the children. But what is the whole point? She was this traditional wife. She did everything that she was supposed to do, and he left her, and now her life is so different and she had to start over. If women don't protect themselves when they marry men and they take on these stereotypical gender roles, such as traditional wife, stay-at-home wife, if you don't have a prenup or a career or any sort of way to make income, if that man decides to leave you, you're going to be in a bad situation. I've seen all over TikTok women coming forward saying that, you know, all this work, and what did it get me? What did it get you? It got you, you know, you got to stay home and raise your beautiful children, which is, it's a blessing to be able to stay home and raise kids. But at the end of the day, now the man doesn't want you anymore, kicks you out of the house that you were taking care of all these years, and you have to start over from scratch. You maybe have never gone to school, don't have any work experience to put on your resume. You are screwed. But the man, nothing changes for him, right? So protect yourselves. If you're going to be a traditional wife, make sure that there's a way that you can protect yourself if for any reason that man is going to leave you, because you don't want to end up in that lady's situation. And whatever it is that you need to do, if you need to do a little, you know, start a little business, learn some sort of a skill, it could be anything. It could be baking. You can start a baking business. I don't know. You could do social media, whatever you can do for yourself, because you are a stay-at-home mother, right? But that's not the only thing that you can bring to this world. You can offer the world so many other things. You're not just a stay-at-home mom. So find something that will set you up if for any reason that man wants to leave you. And if he doesn't want to leave you, guess what? You still have something else on the side, and you guys can bring in extra income. He has his income that he brings in from his job, and now you have some extra income. And this may not work when babies are really small, but when they go off to school, you're going to have so much more time to start something for yourself. And I think that it will make you feel better as a human being to know that you're capable of holding your own if needed. And if not, now, like I said, the man and the woman, you guys come together and you have more income.
I want to start this video by saying that I'm not asking for money and I'm not asking for sympathy. What I'm asking for is, if you are a young 14, 16, 21-year-old girl, listen up. I drove to the grocery store. I need to grab some milk and bread and a couple things, flipped open the bank app on my phone, and I've been sitting in my car crying ever since, because I never have enough money. And why do I never have enough money? Because when I was a 19-year-old girl, I fell in love. My Mormon faith told me that I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. I got married. I started having babies. I dropped out of college. I never had a career. My only jobs that I ever had in life were a waitress at the Olive Garden and managing a pretzel maker in a mall. Oh, my first couple years of marriage, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I bought a windshield business. I was 20. And my Mormon stake president reminded me that women weren't supposed to work, so I quit my own business, handed it over to my husband, took my name off of it. I would work our family business throughout the next 24 years of my marriage, but I never got paid. I didn't have a salary. My name wasn't on it. I literally worked for room and board. That's it. I would eventually also launch a custom home building company with my uncle as the architect and my friends as the builder, my designs, my realtor. But again, because my husband was the man, his name was on all of the projects, his name was on the business. I remember one of the last custom homes that I built, we sold it and made about a $260,000 profit. That money all went into his bank account. I didn't even have a bank account. I should have said that in the beginning. I never had a bank account. He would give me little envelopes of cash to go grocery shopping with. Anyway, that house sells, the money goes in the bank. I just asked if I could buy myself a piano with the money. I had worked on building that house for 2 years. All of the money went into his bank account. Nothing was under my name. I got a piano and I got a free house to live in. And I got groceries. So I found myself divorced at age 44, just 5 years ago, and within just a few months I was living in my car while he made about $250,000. He would eventually quit that job so that he wouldn't have to pay alimony and child support. He has only paid alimony one time ever in the 5 years since we've been divorced. Once ever. Right after my divorce, I remember being really confident about my ability to get a job, so I put together a resume. I remember one of the first interviews that I had as a management position for a windshield company, similar to the one that we had run. And the man actually laughing as he was interviewing me, like he was really sympathetic. He wasn't being a douchebag, but he was laughing. And he's like, so let me get this straight. You helped manage your family windshield business with your husband, but you were mostly a stay-at-home mom, and all you did was like the marketing and the hiring, firing, and some of the strategy for the business. But it became really apparent that I needed so many more skills to have any type of management job. I couldn't even like work the basic computers. He told me in the interview, please don't apply for any more jobs like this. You are not qualified at all. You're not capable of doing this unless you go back to school and get your degree or get some different experience. And so I ended up, my first job after my divorce was $11 an hour, 4 hours a day, working as an assistant to a school teacher in an elementary school. I made $44 a day. For 24 years, I lived in $1 million homes. I vacationed all over the world. I spent my summers in Hawaii. I could buy myself $500 jeans, diamond tennis bracelets. We had boats and RVs and whatever I wanted. And it never bothered me once that my financial security was dependent on that man being in love with me. I never realized that him liking me or not liking me or finding me sexy or attractive or interesting determined whether or not my children could eat, whether or not I could buy myself a fucking jug of milk and a loaf of bread. So I had my 5th surgery in 2 years, 2 weeks ago, and I'm supposed to be in bed resting, and I can't because I've worked 7 days a week since my divorce 5 years ago, which is why I'm covered in paint and looking like crap. We actually have a 4-day weekend here in Tucson, and since my partner isn't working, he's working on furniture flip partner projects with me. I have no retirement. I have no savings, no education, no resume. I was almost a straight A student throughout all of my education. I went to college at age 17. I had dreams for my future. I'm working so hard to get myself out of just perpetual side hustle hell. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wonder why I didn't have a fucking backup plan. Why my kids eating and having stability was dependent on a romantic relationship. Why nobody told me to put money in the bank. Why nobody told me don't have babies until you have an education and some experience. Don't have so many kids. I wish somebody had told me to put my name on our vehicle loans and to put my name on our houses. I wish somebody had told me that it's okay to put those babies in daycare for a couple days a week and go to college and have a job. And I think I need to do an entire like TRADWIVES sequel, because you can be happy and rich and loving your life like Ballerina Farm until the guy walks out. I want you guys to imagine for a minute, even rich Hannah, if Deanna walked out, if all of his financial backing and he had to sell the farm, and then what does she have? Find another rich boy to marry? I just don't want one more woman to DM me comment, send me their stories, cry to me about how hard it is for them to support their families, and I am so tired of living my own story. We have to make this stop. Raise your daughters to be financially independent. Focus on their futures and educations just as much as you focus on your sons. I wish that someone had done that for me.
TikTok's TRADWIVES are under attack because the internet thinks they're a plague to society.
These TRADWIVES on social media are going to be the end of y'all. They are selling you a life and a dream that they do not even live.
In the past few months, the internet has been flooded with a surge of content where young moms and wives look and act like they came out straight out of a 1950s magazine. They are devoting themselves to their kitchen and their family, taking care of their working husband and children, while also looking extremely content and very fashionable. These are the internet's TRADWIVES, and they are pushing the new, most ridiculed genre of content currently on the internet. The world became familiar with TRADWIVES because many of them celebrate and promote their values through social media channels like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. There, they've created communities through hashtags like #TradWife and use these channels to provide tips and tricks about their lifestyle. Some of the most successful TRADWife influencers have well over 1 million followers. For example, Nara Smith and Hannah Nealman of Ballerina Farm, both of which are two content creators that are probably in the very top. Smith has 1.5 million followers on TikTok, while Nealman has a whopping 8.5 million followers on Instagram. But in addition to being the favorite meme currently, they are also being accused of something much worse. Apparently, they are all lying to us, and not only are they faking these seemingly perfect lifestyles, they are also promoting some seriously problematic mindsets. According to many, the lifestyle they are promoting can be extremely damaging and dangerous for young girls that might find it appealing, because it expects them to give up their careers and completely depend on their husbands. But not many can healthily live like that, except for the very select few.
To be a traditional wife, your husband is taking care of you 100%. The very fact that they are on social media means what? What class? They have social media money. Means they don't depend on their husband. Means if that husband leaves them today, they will be fine by tomorrow.
Let's look at Nara Smith as an example. She's married to a millionaire husband, Lucky Blue Smith, and is also extremely wealthy herself, as she makes a significant amount from the content that she creates and also works as a model on the side. That means that she is in no way financially dependent to her husband, and if she's acting like she is selling a completely falsified image of her life to her fans. And the reality is sadly much, much worse. Let's look at the heartbreaking story of this failed TRADWife who unfortunately got handed the short end of the stick.
Because when I was a 19-year-old girl, I fell in love. My Mormon faith told me that I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. I got married. I started having babies. I dropped out of college. I never had a career.
She continues saying that whenever she wanted to work, or even when she started her own small business, her Mormon husband reminded her that he is the man and that he should work and she should look after the home.
I would work our family business throughout the next 24 years of my marriage, but I never got paid. I didn't have a salary, my name wasn't on it.
But now she and her ex-husband have been divorced for 5 whole years. And as some expected, he left all the kids with her. But he continuously refused to pay alimony, leaving the poor mother to struggle to feed her kids and make ends meet.
And within just a few months, I was living in my car. While he made about $250,000, he has only paid alimony one time ever in the 5 years since we've been divorced. Once ever.
In the heartbreaking video, this mother reminds young girls of a very important life lesson. And that's to always be smart and careful about who they trust, because there sadly isn't anybody that will look after them better than themselves.
I used to be a TRADWife, and now I'm a single mom. It all started back when I was a teen mom. I was 19 years old when I got pregnant. I was not married. When our daughter was like a week old, we just eloped at the courthouse and made it signed, sealed, and delivered. We were married. I was married to a military man, and my job was to be a wife and a mom. I wasn't supposed to have any time or any thoughts about doing anything other than being a wife and a mom. I love my kids very dearly, and I do not regret my decisions to have them. I do regret my decision to pick the partner that I picked to be their dad and to be my ex-husband. I had very low self-worth and self-esteem and thought that I was only good at being a wife and a mom because that's what I was shown growing up. It wasn't until we were teenagers that my mom and ever started going to college. When she got married, she didn't have a college degree. She was in the military, and she did her 4 years in the Air Force, and my dad was a career military man, and my mom just married him and became a trad wife. And don't get me wrong, trad wife life comes with perks. I think it's best when you pick the right partner. I've seen a video talking about stitch this and tell me why marriage is hard. Marriage is only hard when you pick the wrong partner. My ex-husband would make fun of my weight. He would make fun of the little gap I have in between my two front teeth right here. Basically anything he could find to make fun of, he would make fun of it. But he would try to play it off as if it was just him being sarcastic and that we should make fun of each other. And don't get me wrong, I know there's couples out there like that, and that is the way they show their love, and I am not passing any judgment on how anybody else lives their life. I just know for me, coming from a house where we never did that, it really sent me into, like, I would say emotional distress. I wanted to laugh all of the things off, but deep down inside, I knew all of the jokes were true, and that he was basically just making fun of me our entire marriage. Of course, at the time, I probably didn't realize all of that until I was out of the marriage. I love my kids very, very, very much, and I do not regret my decision to have them. I love them so much. But picking the wrong partner did a number to me, even post-divorce. I was tormented for years post-divorce. My ex was so controlling to the fact that he wanted to try to control my sex life after divorce, after many years of divorce. And he was already married and had a kid with his now wife, who was his wife back then also. Anyway, all of this to say is pick smart when you are picking the father of your children, the mother of your children, and you are picking a partner for life. Do not take that very lightly. That is one of the most important decisions you will make in your entire life. Next to what toppings you want for your Chipotle bowl. Also, it's very important to have the hard conversations in an early relationship and in an early marriage, that if your partner is doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you bring it up and you have the guts to have the hard conversations. That is one thing I definitely messed up in my relationship, is that I let my husband at the time make all the decisions. I basically had no voice. I don't even know if I would have been able to speak up. Because after we were divorced, when the kids went to go live with him, because my kids went to go live with him and I paid him child support, I would say I had no say-so on how my kids were raised. I learned that very quickly, that my voice and my opinions on my girls did not matter, and that I should just fall in line with anything he says to do.
If you're wondering why you don't see a lot of tradwife content from women who are sort of 35 and above, it's because they end up like me. Hi, for those of you who don't know, I was a stay-at-home housewife from when I was 17 to nearly 27. What my life looked like for that decade was, essentially, I waited for him to come home for about 10 years. At the time I was 21, I had 2 kids under 3, and so that took up an enormous amount of my time. They were only allowed to go to a Steiner Waldorf school under his rules, which basically means no tech, no screen time. They learn how to do things with like wool and clay, and it's actually really culty. And I personally wouldn't have picked that, but what he said went. I was incredibly submissive, and I loved him absolutely unconditionally, regardless of what he did to me. And yes, this was also a very abusive relationship, but I don't think that's necessarily typical to the degree that happened to me, to everyone in these kinds of relationships. I was very fortunate that I worked part-time some of that time, although it was really hard for me to hold down work because my work was never prioritized, and I'd only work like 7 hours a week anyway. So not enough to have financial independence, but enough to have a little bit of like pocket money, although he would often dip into that as well. The industry I worked in and like got any kind of education in, because I wasn't allowed to go to uni, was the beauty industry, because that was considered safe, because I wouldn't have male co-workers and therefore I wouldn't have male friends, and I wasn't allowed to talk to male friends anyway, even the ones I'd been friends with for like over a decade at that point. I wasn't allowed to get tattoos. He had absolute say over what I looked like. He would decide how I dressed, how I wore my hair, and if I changed things without like asking him first, he would put me down either very directly telling me I looked awful, or indirectly by saying, oh, I liked how it looked before, and he'd hassle me with it until I changed it to a way that he deemed acceptable. A really fun thing about that is I figured out years later that he actually just encouraged me to look like the women he was cheating on me with, so that's fun. I learned how to cook like a chef because his expectation was, from the time I was, again, 17 years old, was that I made everything from scratch with fresh ingredients. So I went to the supermarket every single day. But because I wasn't allowed to drive, I had to walk to the supermarket or take like buses and trains. And a lot of the time he wanted really niche food that meant I had to go on missions all over town, and that would take up my whole day with my toddlers in a pram, wandering around. And so what happens is eventually these women make friends. I made friends with other mothers because my children started school, and I realized something actively bad was happening to me. I made a plan and I left. It took me 2 years. And so that brings you to why you don't see women who are older, who are mid-30s, mid-40s and up, making tradwife content. When you leave, you have no ability to make your own money. You have no financial independence. So do you know what you have to do? You have to go study. You have to get a job. You have to figure out how to untangle all of his wants over your needs, which takes forever. Case in point, I am 34 years old. I have just started an undergrad degree and I have just learnt how to drive. And those two things are absolutely incredible. The first thing I did when we broke up, when I had a bit of money to spare, I got tattooed because I was finally allowed to make decisions about my own body. My hair has been every color and length you could possibly imagine since we broke up because I get to make decisions about how I look. The thing is, the longer that you're in a relationship like this, in a way, it was kind of fortunate for me that there were more urgent factors that made me leave sooner, but I am still a good 10, 15 years behind everyone else my age in terms of setting up my finances, in terms of building a career for myself. If you've been in this relationship since you were like 18 and you are now 40, 50 or above, you have no idea how to make a career happen. And because you've got so many gaps in your resume, again, I was fortunate that I work part-time, you're not getting a job. You don't get to have any kind of life. You will be destitute forever. And I also feel like, and I can't relate to this because when we broke up, my children were still in elementary school, but I feel like if you've been in this relationship for decades, your grown-up children are probably also going to be really entitled because they've been raised on the belief that they can treat you like this because that is the norm. And so there are so many of us who have been in these kinds of relationships. I see them all over this app who are in their 30s, 40s and 50s who have left these kinds of relationships, who are like, for the love of God, don't do it. If you really want to cosplay as a 50s housewife, get an education, get your own bank account, put off getting married till you're a little bit older. So yeah, that's why.
I just saw a creator ask where all the former tradwives were. And maybe some of the ones that went to college for their MRS degree got married as children and had, I don't know, 5 kids in 7 years. The ones who learned to sew and darn and cook everything from scratch. The ones who wore dresses and made sure their hair was fully done and their full face of makeup was on before their husband got home from work. The ones who worked through cookbooks to make sure that the family always had something new and healthy and exciting to eat. The ones whose role in life was to serve your husband and your children. It's always okay to be overdressed. It's never okay to be underdressed. Your house is your calling card. Any grown-up girlfriend would tell you that your job is not to emasculate your husband, but to let him lead with dignity and grace, and gently help mold him into the man that he deserves to be. What do you mean free labor? It's just being a wife. Your children and their behavior out in the world is a direct reflection of who you are as parents. Do it correctly. You let your husband come home to a house that looks like that? Hasn't he been working all day? You're the thermostat of the home, not the thermometer. If your husband's hot, it's your job to bring him back down to temperature in the household and bring your children up to the correct one as well. That's your role. Well, we hit burnout in our 30s. We deconstructed our entire lives. We had, I don't know, a kid or two too many and hit a point that we couldn't keep up with the executive functioning that we'd been expected to do flawlessly for most of our lives. We stopped wearing makeup, started wearing tinted moisturizer. We bought the Fair Play cards as a family and redistributed them. We had to start paying other people to do some of the unpaid labor that we did for free for a decade plus. And our spouses suddenly realized that that shit was never free. Some of us got to recommit and remarry the same person that we were already with and completely change the dynamics of our marriage, change what we thought was traditional or correct or moral or right. We had to re-regulate our nervous systems and learn how to deal with our anxiety. We had to overcome perception anxiety and perfectionism and people-pleasing. We got therapists and read books on how to rewire our identity to be something that was worthwhile and worthy and valuable and enough, even if we went comatose emotionally and were in bed for, I don't know, 12 months, 14 months, 15 months. Because burnout's freaking real, and women who are expected to be everything in order to be valued don't get to be valued when they are nothing. And as somebody who hit the point where I had nothing of value to give to anybody other than the fact that I was still alive and breathing, I realized how important it was that that was freaking enough. I still bake bread. I still make butter. I still make our yogurt. We still make a lot of our food from scratch as a family, but it's because our homeschool family has to have a full-time cafeteria 3 times a day. But it's not because it is what I am meant to do and my husband is meant to do something different because we were born with one different part from each other. It's because as a family and as a community, we have bought into doing things that allow us to be a full-time family, to stay together, to be home full-time, mommy and daddy and all 5 kids, and homeschool those in a community-based environment where all of us have roles and values and buy-in on who we are and what we contribute. And every one of those things is different, and they have nothing to do with our genders. I was a trad wife because I had traditional gender roles about what made me valuable. I am a partner and a mother in this community that is my little tribe, my little family, now because I am a human. I am a mammal who is raising my mammal critter feral family together with the person I picked to do freaking life with. And we can both cook like nobody's freaking business. I'm not saying that we shouldn't show all the skill sets that we got from being raised in these traditional roles. They're friggin' helpful in like late stage capitalism and the economy tanking. I am super glad that I am so capable to DIY and do things myself. But I think it's important to say that that came from a place of poverty because my husband and I thought the most valuable thing we could do for our family was make sure that I never left our home, was always home with our kids. And so I had to learn to be very inventive and very effective at every single dollar I spent because economically, we shouldn't have had me home full time. But that skill set, that ability to make pasta sauce from tomato paste or even from tomatoes when they start to go on the other side, that's a really cool thing to bring with us into this economy, into this world, into this culture. I am all for sharing the shit out of the stuff we know how to do, how to make, how to DIY, so more and more people can have more sustained living, so more and more people can be lower waste, so more people know how to take their bones, make it into bone broth, make that bone broth into soup base, make that, etc. I think we do deserve to do those, but I've done it for 12 years because it was what was required for us to survive financially, to have me home full time. That not only did I walk into it with all the skill sets I had, with that MRS degree I'd been working real hard on to be the wife of any man's dreams, whatever man's dreams, I think at one point. And realize that I got to pick my partner and he got to grow me and I got to grow him into different versions of ourselves that stepped away from some of the traditions we were both raised in and fell into a lot of the traditions we were both raised in for a number of years until we had to rewrite it all. We had to rewrite our family. We had to rewrite our identity. We had to rewrite our dynamic. We had to rewrite how we did things. And it took a lot of really hard conversations and really intense deconstruction of everything. I mean, the capitalism that's part of our world, the patriarchy that is embedded in the upbringing we both had, all of that was a big part of getting to the other side of saying it is wonderful and incredible to have a bunch of skill sets in a world where we need to be able to do more ourselves. But it doesn't mean that you have to buy into the dynamics or the hierarchy of a household. And that is one thing that I think we need to deconstruct with this, is if we're able to have those skill sets and bring them all for it. Homesteading, absolutely. If there is a hierarchy in our home of your value in your life, and if it doesn't, this was a whole thing that I served my husband and served my children. It took me a long time to figure out where I fit into a hierarchy where all the people I loved the most didn't include me. So I showed y'all how to make tomato soup today on a TikTok live. But I'm also going to talk about what it looks like to deconstruct and get fair play into your life and realize that all those unpaid labors cost a shit ton of money on the open market. So we need to treat the people who are doing those, men and women, like what they do has more value than what they are required and expected to do as a way of being and as a way of identity without any kind of further look at whether or not it's who they want to be. When you're told who you are because of how you were born, you never get an opportunity to figure out who you were meant to be when you get to dig deep. And that's something that comes on the other side of deconstruction. Can we bring these two sides of TikTok together? I would love to talk to these 20-something-year-old girls and just make sure we all got a plan. On your 7,000th dinner from scratch, it might feel a little less romantic and a little less beautiful. And on those moments, I hope as women we share with each other the days that it feels like more than what we can do. That's just my old lady with 5 kids that I had in 7 years input on the whole situation.
Hey y'all, welcome back to All Things Jenny. I'm Jenny. So let's talk about this whole TRADWIVE situation. So I think one of the young ladies mentioned that, the one in pink, she mentioned that in the video where, yes, it is possible to be a TRADWIVE or stay-at-home mom. So for example, that's my dream for, like, if I have children, I want to be able to raise them the proper way because I don't want to have the TV raising them. And I made a video about that before. I want to be able to be there for my children, you know, not having to put them in daycare and all that stuff. But on top of that as well, I also will be, you know, running my own business from home. So a lot of the TRADWIVES were basically saying that they didn't have any money at all once they were getting divorced because they never worked. But when you're at home, and I'm not blaming them for, you know, that situation, not having money and all that, because not everybody's into business. Not everybody is into the things that I'm into. But my thing is, I want to be able to raise my children at home and be there to pick them up at the bus stop whenever they get home, you know, helping them with their homework so they don't have to sit in front of the TV because they need something to do since nobody's home to take care of them. And also, I don't want them to be raised by the TV. I want to be able to take care of my children so I don't have to put them in daycare, because nowadays daycare is not the best thing because you don't know who's watching your children and how they're harming your children because they don't know how to talk and tell you what's happening. So that's my thing. But while you're at home, and this is in my opinion, I would, you know, start a business, sell stuff online. There's so many things that you could do to bring in money, so where you don't have to actually go out to do the work to bring in money. So for example, I'm a YouTuber. So yes, YouTube does pay me for my videos. And also I have a Poshmark store. I have a Mercari store. I have stores all over, and I sell like children books on Amazon. I create children's books. So I have plenty that I could be doing at home while my children are either taking a nap or doing this, doing that. And yeah, I know people will probably say, oh, you know what, if you have twins, or, you know, one's sleeping and one is up, because usually that's how it works. And I understand because I have friends with twins. Well, I don't plan on having twins. And if twins does happen, then for at least the first 2 years, I want to be able to take time off so I can properly take care of my children, because kids do not ask to be here. And in my opinion, if I'm going to have children, I want to be able to give them the best of life, as much to the best of my ability. Not saying that those moms were not, like, they wouldn't be best moms if they did go to work, but it's just, in my opinion, that's what I want to do for my children. But I also agree with the women in the videos. It's all about the men that you pick too, because you could be a stay-at-home mom or a TRADWIVE and still have an amazing life, and after you get a divorce, you still have, you know, everything is making, you know, down the middle, separated down the middle, and everybody is happy. It really all depends on, like, who you pick and the person that you choose to have children with. And usually, excuse me, and usually you cannot tell because people can have, you know, their representatives, so you're thinking that they're this amazing person until you're married to them, and that's when everything switches. So yes, it is possible, but at the end of the day too, you always have that plan B or that plan C. Okay, I'm going to do this while I'm home if I need extra money, or talk to them and see if they'll give you an allowance so you can be able to save up something and even start a little business. But like I said, not everybody is into business, not everybody's into stuff like that. But if you want to be a TRADWIVE, I think in order for you to try to make it happen where everybody will be happy in the end, where you will be able to have some money in your hands and you can support yourself if things were to happen, so you can get out of the marriage, so you don't feel like you're stuck because you don't have any money in your pocket. You got to make your brain work and try to figure out other ways to make money. If being at home with your children is something that you really, really want to do, which majority of people, if they had it their way, they would want to do that for their children. But now that it's just not the case. And if you do find someone who wants to make you a tread wife because that's what you want, then you should think of other ways to make money, so that way you're not stuck in that situation. But being a tread wife can be very tricky, and you have to be able to find that person that's going to not allow, because you shouldn't have to be allowed to do those things. Like, it should be, okay, well, I'm doing this. Okay, honey, as long as it's going to benefit our children and us and the relationship, then it should be fine. So it shouldn't be like, oh, he's not allowing me to work, or he's not allowing me to do this. You should try to be with someone who you can have those kind of conversations with. And like I said, sometimes people do switch up on you. Yes, this does happen. But if the switch up does happen, then now, while I'm deciding to go to work, now that you switch up on me, I cannot trust that when things get worse, you're going to take care of us like you promised. So then now you're going to have to go to work. But if that's not the case, then you'll have someone who's going to support you. But at the same time too, try to find other ways to make money. I mean, nowadays on the internet, there's so many ways to make money. It's crazy. So I would hope that, getting out of a marriage or a relationship you wouldn't be stuck in that because of money issues, because there are so many ways to make money nowadays. I mean, you just have to really just sit there and think about ways to make money while you're at home with your children, if you feel like you're stuck being a stay-at-home wife or a tread wife. So there are many, many ways to look at this, honestly. I don't know if people will be, agree with what I'm saying, but it makes sense in my head. And that's the thing that I would have done if I was a tread wife or a stay-at-home wife. I mean, it's the same. The term means the same thing. But as for someone who does want to be at home to raise up my children, if I have girls, I want to be able to do tea parties with them, bake them cookies and help them out, go to the park with them and show them how it should be, at least in my opinion, how it should be. Not the only time you see your children is on the weekend, and usually you're too busy cleaning the house because you worked all week, and then you're basically just seeing them because they're in the house with you. That's the only time you're seeing them. You're not really seeing them, taking the time and doing the little things that matter, because at the end of the day, you working 24 hours a day is not going to matter at the end of the day. So the whole tread wife thing, I guess it works for some people, it doesn't work for some. So yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to look at it, guys. Anyways,
I think it's been really interesting to see how shocked people are by the term trad wife and how they seem to think it's some new way of living, like it's some unprecedented new trend. Have you seen these millennial and Gen Z girls? They just want to be at home with their kids. They want to have husbands and they want to take care of their husbands. They want to cook and they want to clean and they want to wear dresses. It's insane. When in reality, it's literally the oldest lifestyle in the book. Before this, they were just called stay-at-home moms. And before that, they were just called women. But now our society has gone so far in the feminist direction that anybody who wants to live a little bit old school and a little bit like how women used to live is fringe, right? An extremist. And I just think about how so many of us, since we were little, we were raised in this kind of boss babe feminist society that told us you can be so much more than just a mom. You can be so much more than just a wife. And so many of us listened and we, tried to climb corporate ladders and we boss babed so hard. Now, we're a little bit boss babed out. And some of us want to go a little bit more back to our roots, to our ancestors, to the women who came before us and live a little bit more, like they did. Call us crazy, but we like babies. We want to have babies. We want to spend the very few years that we have of them being little with them. We like cooking, we like running a home, we like supporting our husbands and having good marriages. And yes, we also appreciate cute dresses. The audacity. So call them trad wives, call them stay-at-home moms, call them whatever you want. But just know that no matter how much you try and push the career and the boss babe and the feminist lifestyle onto women, there will always be women who naturally want a more traditional lifestyle, just like the billions of women who came before us.